Good morning, Gabriella.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I'm going to be on a call, so if I don't say anything and you say something to me, that's why.
Okay, that's okay. I was just greeting and there's my friend. Hello.
Record button real quick.
Awesome.
That way we don't forget before we get going. We'll give everybody just a minute or two to get back on.
Brooke, I come on and there's no music playing. What happened there?
We were having a deep discussion about New England allergies and hair. So, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Riveting.
I get it.
Riveting. It was riveting.
Can one of you remind me of the time constraints we're working with?
So we're going to start right at 8:30 and we're going to end right at 9:15. So we love to leave some time at the end for ahas, takeaways, and action plans.
When would you like that to happen?
As soon as you're done delivering your content.
Okay, because we'll note here. So you tell me when, anytime, and we'll get it going.
All right. So good morning, New England. Welcome to session 6 of the MREA, week 2. We are finishing out week 2 on the lead generation model, probably one of the most, actually they're all important, but one of the most important of the 4 is the lead generation model, because here's the thing. What happens if you don't lead generate? Nothing happens if you don't lead generate. So Jesse Davies is going to come on, tell you a little bit about himself, where he is now, where he was to get to where he is now, and then dive into the MREA series. And you have Brooke here, the regional tech trainer, as always. And today we have one of my favorites, our MCTT out of the Easton and other offices, Maggie McDowell. So you have a bunch of people here to support you on this lead generation model topic, and we're ready to go, Jesse. So let's dive in.
Awesome. Excellent. So thank you, Jen. It's such a pleasure to be here and to teach this material. It's actually something I was telling my wife last night. She says, what do you got going on tomorrow? And I said, I'm teaching on lead generation. She's like, oh, you're gonna have an easy day then, or something like that, something to that effect, because she knows that I really love lead generation. So in short, I joined Keller Williams as a brand new agent in April of 2015. And by August of 2015, I attended Mega Camp. The first time was my first event. And I remember going, and I only heard 2 things out of all the sessions and all the speakers and everything was basically, and they were basically from Gary, was he said, lead generate every day and get a coach. And so I said, okay, well, I know how to lead generate already, because that's what Tim Lindsay, my productivity coach at the time, was telling me to do and getting me into motion. And I said, now I need to get a MAPS coach. So I got a MAPS coach. And then they basically told me every single week to lead generate. And what that resulted in over the following 6 years, up until the spring, is I've made over 250,000 lead generation calls that I've tracked, okay? And sold over 250 homes. So you think, that's not 50 a year. It ramped up and got out of control and a lot of fun. And then I decided to take a leadership role with the Greater Portland office. So that's where I am now, working as an assistant team leader. And guess what I do every day? I get to lead generate. But for something different other than buyers and sellers, I get to lead generate for recruits. So that's kind of a little bit of my journey there. Through that time, I have experienced running a team, being on a team, and being a solo agent. Okay, so I've experienced the broad spectrum. I know what it's like to have things dictated to me. I know what it's like to dictate things to other people, and to just dictate it to myself in general. So what we're going to talk about today is really the foundation of business models in general, just lead generation. As Jen said, if you're not lead generating and there's no other source of business coming in, everything's going to flatline, right? We're not going to have anything to work with. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the idea that Lead generation should be marketing based. This is right out of the book, and prospecting enhanced. So what does that actually look like? So there are a lot of different systems that we can use in order to do this. The idea being is, I want you to think marketing is passive awareness of your brand to a market that you're aiming at, okay? So this could be social media ads, this could be a billboard, this could be postcards, this could be just about anything, right? It's passive, it's out there, it's working 24/7, but it's reliant on people engaging with it and coming to you. Okay, it's not active. Prospecting is the intention of I'm actively going after, nurturing, cultivating, and working on leads. Who is texting me right now? Brooke, what are you
I
doing?
am. Your audio is going in and out a little bit.
Hold on.
It's those tricky AirPods.
Let me turn them off. Let me do this.
Okay.
If I just start, can you hear me okay now?
Ooh.
Better?
Nicer.
Just gonna adjust that.
Much
Okay.
better.
Thank you. Usually I would say turn your cell phone off, but that was a good thing. So marketing-based prospecting enhanced. So the idea of the prospecting is basically you're actively going out and working, you're actively going out and engaging with people, you're actively going out and doing all that. Now, the problem is most people only rely on one and not necessarily the other. And this can be in both cases. So if you are simply marketing focused, you're going to have disproportionate effort put into that to make up for not doing any prospecting. Okay. So instead of marketing to say, 5,000 people, you're going to have to market to 100,000. I'm just exaggerating. I'm making up numbers in order to get the same amount if you were doing marketing at 5,000 and prospecting to 5,000. Now, the same thing is true. And I got caught up in this with prospecting I was not spending any money on marketing because I thought that was a waste. And that wasn't until I met with my MAPS coach one time and he was like, hey, we're going over your budget and you're only spending 0.8% of your gross commission income on lead generation. He's like, that's a problem. I was like, why? He said, have you read MREA? I said, yeah, like 10 times. I said, what's the budget model say? It says like 10 to 12%. I said, why aren't you spending that? And once I did that, the two got married together and basically exploded. So what does it actually look like? If we go to page 187 of MREA, it would be on the third page if you're double-sided of the handout. We talk about basically splitting up your efforts into understanding that there are people that you have met and there are people that you haven't met. And Keller Williams has really laid out a system for us to convert through the lead generation process, both marketing and prospecting, to take people that we have not met and turn them into our Mets. Now, this seems almost too simple, but it's absolutely phenomenal when you think about how you can put your creativity on top of it. If we go to the beginning of MREA, there's a little diagram of a triangle and says models on the bottom and creativity on the top. The problem is most people want to put creativity as a foundation, put models on the top, and it falls over. Now, this here is the models, this is the foundation, and I want to help you with thoughts of creativity on top of that. This is what's going to help you basically add some nitro fuel. You ever watch the Fast and Furious movies when Vin Diesel hits the button? He always has the button available to hit and the car goes flying forward. Hopefully that's a good cultural reference for everybody. It starts with either the 8x8 or the 12 direct. Now we'll start on the left-hand side with the 8x8. Let's keep this very simple. The 8x8 is intended to convert somebody from a haven't met into the 33 or 30, or we call all these different things now, but essentially what this is saying is 33 touch. To convert somebody you haven't met into a regular communication program, okay, or system. The 12 direct would really be like a canvas to a farm, okay? Now, this is where this could be a little bit confusing because the way that I've understood it in all the classes I've gone to is, let's say you do the 12 direct out to your farm, and then someone engages with you. You then put them on the on the 8x8 to convert them into the 33 touch. So there's a different diagram. It's not in this section, but it's really complicated. It has all these arrows, and it's like you redirect here and like this and that. But the intention is we keep it simple and say, when we meet someone, we want to have a conversion process that cements them into our database. And then we want to have regular communication with them. Okay, that's the point of the 33 touch. Now, you're going to get a much better ratio doing the 8x8 into the 33 touch, which is a 12-to-1 ratio, versus doing just a 12 direct marketing campaign. You get a 50-to-1 ratio. So what sounds more cost effective? Well, that's certainly going to be the 8x8 and the 33 touch. The nice thing is we have Command, which has these things. I don't know if Brooks ever heard of them, the whole smart plans or something to that effect. But these smart plans that can run automatically for you and do a lot of the heavy lifting. Now, in this 8x8, what typically people did in the past or were recommending in the past was like, hey, some direct mail and different things. What I want to encourage you is, what is something that naturally helps you actually build relationships with people that you meet, that you want to build a relationship with? I don't want you to think real estate right now. I just want you to think in general. You meet someone at a party and you're like, you are cool, and I want to spend time with you, and I want to get to know you. What are things?
Hold on one sec. Are you saying they don't have to talk about real estate every second of the day to the people they meet, or no? Wait.
You can if you choose to. No, you certainly don't have to. Right? You're like, wait, I can have a life.
I can
So think about or think about your life prior to real estate when you didn't talk about real estate. What are things? So let's open it up either in the chat or come off mute and just in a second say, in a word or two, what is something that you would do to further a relationship with someone?
Just talk to them, get to know them.
Talk to them.
I usually friend them on social media.
Oh, there's a good idea. Friend them on social media. I see Mark Kavanaugh said the forward conversation, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Yes. So any of those things that are natural can go into your system. So we would say like, hey, I want to get their cell phone number. Hey, how am I going to capture that? What is this? Oh, Brian's saying guitars and beer. That's always an option too. Yeah. Now, this may be a pop by to their office. This may be a thank you card to engage with them. This may be adding them on social media. You get to kind of decide, what does it look like to connect with someone in a natural capacity, and then write that down. That's very simple. There are lots of ideas. If you read through like the Bold Facebook page, you read through the Ignite material, you go to Bold, or you talk with folks around the Market Center, you get a lot of ideas for engaging and saying, like, what does it look like to get somebody into a regular conversation with me? Okay. Now, it doesn't have to be 8x8, but we find that it usually takes about 8 interactions of some capacity to get somebody into a regular conversation with you about real estate. Now, the ultimate goal should be that I have a regular communication with my database. So I want to break this down for you in the simplest terms possible, saying, if we are in regular communication through a 33 touch with our database, we can do any amount of business that we want. Okay. The way to get people into that database is through the doorway of the 8x8. So just think about it that way. 8x8 into 33 touch, communicate with them, spend your cash. Right? It's like, you get your goodies there. Now, this is not in this section of our material, but it is in the lead generation model. It may actually be in the economic model. I was going back and forth, but it's the laws of the database. And the 4 laws of the database are: build it, which we already have in Command. It already exists, so you don't have to worry about that. Feed it. Okay, it's number 2. That means put contacts into it. You can do that through the 8x8. You meet people, engage with them, you put them into the system, then you communicate with it in a systematic fashion. Okay, that's step 3. That's the 33 touch or the 36 to connect or whatever you're hearing out there. Okay, then the 4th step is service all the referrals that come from it. That means, someone needs to borrow a ladder, you get them a ladder. Okay, someone needs a leaf blower. I know this personally because I have like the best leaf blower in the world, and all these people want to borrow it, and I end up forgetting where it is. And whatever. Then all of a sudden, the third time, it's like, hey, I need somebody to sell my house. You're like, well, I lent you a ladder and I lent you my leaf blower, and now it's time to sell your house. You're servicing that referral. The 33 touch is the way to systematically communicate with it, and it's built in for you. Now, it's not all phone calls. In this day and age, it is going to be a mix of email, an email touch campaign, depending on what is in the smart plan. There are a lot of smart plans out there for you to utilize. Then you're looking at communicating with them via voice to voice, probably about 4 to 5 times a year. It's really not too complicated. You know, those 4 to 5 times could be when you're communicating with them about a referral. But honestly, like Mark Kaplan said, is, you know, communicating with them about 4 times a year using the forward conversation of family, occupation, recreation, and dreams is usually going to solidify your database. And that's going to yield you massive returns. I want to give you an insight into how much this can actually benefit you. If you have your smartphone, you can pull that out and look at your contacts. If you have an iPhone, you go all the way to the bottom of the contacts, and you can see I have it's a little bit unclear, 1,748 contacts. Okay, 1,748 contacts according to MREA should yield about 105 units a year if communicated with on a regular basis. You know something? I don't have to add anybody else. They're already all in there. And they're ready to be communicated with. The problem is that we want to avoid that at all costs. And it's like, wait a minute, the secret's right here in front of our faces. The nice thing is, basically everybody in here has already gone through an 8x8. So I just need to put them on the 33 touch and communicate with them in a systematic way. The 12 direct, again, let's just touch on that briefly, is the idea of canvassing an area. Say you send out, you know, a monthly newsletter to a market, then someone reaches out and connects with you, boom, it just goes right to the 8x8 and into the 33 touch. There's some math at the bottom of page 187 of MREA that talks about how many people need to be in your Met database versus your haven't met database. That if you are communicating with your Met database at 1,920 contacts annually, you're going to hit 320 sales, as well as sending a farm, or sorry, this is without sending anybody to your haven't met. But if you have less than half, or option 3, you could have 8,000 people in your farm that you're doing a 12 direct to at a 50-to-1 ratio. You could do 320 sales. So I think what it comes down to is what I see in this arena is this may be true. This is going to come off as a judgment. Okay. This is me judging other real estate agents and actually myself too. We can put a lot of effort into avoiding the conversation that's going to generate business. Okay. Instead of participating in relationships that we already have that will provide disproportionate results for us. Okay. What I'm saying is we could do activities like posting on social media and, you know, sending out just sold postcards that have what MREA is saying, a 50-to-1 ratio, right? To try to capture people. Or we could be having conversations that have a 1-in-6 ratio with people we already know, people that we're already in a relationship with. Now, you may call BS on me on this one. And I will tell you that of the 250 deals that I did, or I lost track after that point, 18% came from one person.
That's huge. That's huge.
18% of all my transactions came from one person. What does that mean? If we do the math, I like doing a little math. That means I would only need 5.5 of those people to do all the deals that I did. I would just need to stay in regular communication with 5.5 people. So 5 average height people and 1
5'1"
shorter
person. Yeah. 5'1". Yeah.
Go
That's
ahead.
incredible.
Oh,
That's
do you have a question? Yeah. So, and if you look on the front of MREA, where's it? There it is. There's a guy named Dave Jenks on there, and Dave Jenks, who was he talking with? I don't remember who was telling the story recently that I was in a conversation with, but they were saying Dave Jenks said to them, the results in your real estate business are in direct proportion to the quality and quantity of conversations you're having about real estate. Okay. So what that means is you look across a spectrum of people that are doing deals and say, wow, this person's doing 300 deals. They're having a lot of quality and likely quantity of conversations about real estate. If anything, it would lean more towards quantity. Okay. Now, the person doing 10 deals a year is likely has close to the same ratios. They're just having fewer conversations. Now, hear me out. What I'm not saying is you have to put crazy effort into cold calling. Okay, I'm not saying that. I've done that. I've done all these different variations. Tim Lindsay says, yeah, that person that gave me over 18% of my business is a wealth determiner. There's a nice chart from Quantum Leap that shows like, hey, who is determining wealth for you and who are you determining wealth for? And that'd be a great example of that. And ultimately, if we can get in touch with, dare I say, 10 or 20, oh my gosh, wealth determiners, you can be done. You can have as much, you can do as much business as you want. The problem is we put disproportionate effort into the things that provide the least return. Okay. Now, I'm just looking at, we can talk about, oh, I was wrong. I'm sorry. On page 188, it's the laws of the database. I was totally skipping around. I'm sorry. So yeah, build it, feed it, communicate with it, and service all leads that come from it. Now, we could get into cost ratios, but I think that may not necessarily be the best use of time. What I'm curious about is, I know that we go until 9:15. I was thinking about pausing it at 9. Is I'm curious, what do you guys need? Is there something in particular that you need or that you're curious about based on what we've just gone through?
Hey, Jesse, can I stop you there and back the question up first? Because I think the question I'm going to ask you is going to help lead these guys down the path of where my thinking is okay. Why are our agents avoiding those calls? I know we all have some of those fears and limiting beliefs, but I'm sure there was a point in your career. Well, I don't know with your personality. What is stopping our agents from doing these activities?
So here's the thing is, we talk about like pain versus pleasure, like, right, you're going to avoid the pain, seek pleasure. And most times people are going to say like, I'm going to avoid the pain. I'm going to avoid the pain of not being able to pay my mortgage. So therefore I'm going to do some lead generation to pay my bills and all this stuff. I'm going to show you something that only one person on this call has ever seen. Actually, one person all of Keller Williams has ever seen. And it's, my camera's flipped, so I'm going to unflip it. This is because my head tilts to one direction. It makes me uncomfortable. So I mirror my camera, but I'm going to do this. I don't know if you can read it. Right. It's not.
No, read it.
Dang it. That's Obi-Wan on my.
That's Obi-Wan on there.
This says.
I know.
I know that Mo Anderson wouldn't appreciate this, but can I swear? Is that okay?
Well.
No, I won't swear.
Keep it.
It just says, can my girls buy whatever the F they want today? That's, he's smiling because he knows exactly what I'm talking about. I want to know, like, that's part of my big why is taking care of my wife and my 2 girls. And I'm very much in tune with that. And someone on this call very early on in my career helped me get in tune with that and say, what is important to you? What are you doing? And that's a reminder that's been on my phone And I think I looked the other day and it said it's reminded me 1,700 times or something.
Whoa.
Right? I see it every morning, 8:30, boom, there it is. And the idea being is if you don't get in touch with what it is that you're going after, I would say there's no point in expending effort. Find someone to help you understand what you're doing. And this is what I do with my coaching clients is I say, we find a purpose, that'd be the big why, we find a model, and we have accountability to that model. You do those three things. I'm oversimplifying it, but if you participate in those three things, you can accomplish anything you want in this world. You determine like, hey, I want to climb Mount Everest. Who's done it before? Okay, who's gonna hold me accountable to do what other people have done before? Boom, there you go. There's the answer. Now, I would say people often skip to accountability without even having a model. Like, hey, would you hold me accountable? Just make a bunch of calls. And you're like, well, what's the model you're following? And why are you actually doing that? So I think if we back up, it's simple. It's just not always clear to us. And I would say lean into the coaching program, trying to lean into your PC, lean into MAPS coaching if you're in MAPS coaching, and say like, hey, do I understand my big why? Do I understand why I'm even waking up and getting dressed in the morning and going out and dealing with whatever it is? And I don't care if you're in real estate or you work in a manufacturing plant. Like if you don't understand what you're working toward, it's going to be not fun. And Mark mentions the big why exercise on page 77. Thank you for that.
That's huge. That's huge. So agents are not always clear on their big why, or if their big why is redefined because of a life event.
Right.
And then they don't have the models in place, or maybe it's they don't understand the dialogues or scripts or what they're supposed to even talk with people. So one of the first things you said when we opened this was lead gen every day, get a coach.
Yeah. Now,
Jesse, could we, if we could do two things real quick, there's a couple things I'd love to have you touch on. The first is, if you go to page 137 and look at the target, there's the haven't mets down to what you were just describing as a wealth determiner. And that person did call it 20% of your business. The first thing that I would say is that you said, dare I say, 5, 10 of those people in your world. Let's define who some of those people are. So that's A, because I think a lot of people would be interested to know who are those people that I should be looking for and identifying so that I can figure out how I can get one first that does 20% of my business. And then the second thing I think is that we should probably talk a little bit about what those specific conversations might sound like, because I think what Brooke was asking is, why don't they make these calls? And I think the argument is most of us feel really salesy when we make those calls. So what can those conversations sound like in your experience? And then a dialogue around that I think would be helpful for everybody.
Absolutely. And what I'll do is I'll get Brooke. I actually recreated from page 133 the target to be a little bit clearer and actually have some color on it and everything like that. So we'll post that in the New England page so people will see what we're talking about. They essentially have like, hey, everybody on the outside of the target that exists in the world, well, we can't have conversations with every single one of them. So then we go into, closer into our communities and things like that. And it gets more narrow essentially until we get to our core advocates, our ambassadors, whatever we want to call them at the center, as Mark is mentioning. And essentially what I would say is, first, if you have it in you, if you've been in the business a while, go back over the last year or 2 years and create a matrix of where all your deals came from. Okay, so just look in there and see if there are any patterns of a person or a relationship that stands out, because there may be somebody that is unique to you that won't be in the examples I'm about to give. So just kind of create a matrix. That's when I did that at about 100 deals and then started keeping track of it. That's when I realized I was like, Dawn literally gave me my first deal that closed. And guess what? I have one deal that's remaining to close since I became an ATL. Guess who it came from? Dawn. Came from Dawn. Surprise. Whoa, like my career. I'm just realizing this right now. My career was bookended by one person. Now, he happens to be a financial advisor. And what I would say is, in broad strokes, is you can build relationships with people that have connections to people that are transacting real estate, or that we would sometimes say are the in-between person to people that are holding money. Okay, so I want you to think about this, and I'm sure there are plenty of examples as attorneys. If we get a little bit specific under that, we could say, we can ask the question, what attorney is handling the most transactions, right? I would say divorce attorneys. You could probably get 3-ish deals from one referral. Usually people separating and selling one home and then needing to buy 2 additional homes. That's an example. Now you might think, oh, that's in bad taste. Oh, wait, so people that are getting divorced, that are going through traumatic experiences don't deserve good customer service? Yeah, if you're going to be sleazy about it, and that's what we'll get to the conversation. However, those people do deserve to have good customer service, and someone's going to need to service that transaction. Financial advisors, financial planners, builders, yes. Think about government officials that happen to know everybody. You don't get into government without knowing everybody, like, or knowing the right people, the people that we won't get into conspiracy theories that pull the strings, but the essentially being the movers and shakers. There was a real estate agent that I was working on recruiting a while ago, and basically he's like, Jess, I don't need anything that Keller Williams has because I have these 2 politicians that I know that basically send me all this business. And I was like, oh, okay. So I would say when you identify those people, then the question you would ask, and I think this is an aspect of what Mark is getting to, is the idea of how do we add value to those people's lives and not come at it as, hey, I just need something from you, right? Like, what are we doing to add value to that attorney's life, to that financial advisor's life, to whoever? Sometimes this answer is a lot more simple than you may think. And I'm going to pose this idea. They just want referrals taken care of at the very least. Okay. This is something that I learned with Don early on, was he said, I want to know that when I hand someone off to you, that the job gets done. Right? Sometimes it can be that simple. You think, oh, they want Red Sox tickets, or they want all this special treatment, or they want this. Like, no, sometimes they just want to know their clients have a great experience. And you can provide that. Trust me. When it actually comes to building relationships, is I would not go 1 inch deep and a mile wide. I would go 1 inch wide and a mile deep. Okay, so I would say I would go on to something like LinkedIn maybe, and look at who is a direct connection to a mover and a shaker. So like if I wasn't in relationship with Don and I happened to know of him, and Brooke was my connection to him, say, hey, Brooke, would you mind making an introduction for me to meet with Don? Great. And then start building the relationship from there. I will tell you one way that I have done this with a couple core advocates at the center of that target Mark was talking about. I happen to enjoy recreational shooting. I'm not a hunter. I don't like hunting. I'm not really into it. It just doesn't interest me. But I have a large gun collection that I enjoy going to the range and shooting. Guess what? I know a lot of people that enjoy that. So I invite them along, these core advocates, because it's something that I enjoy, and I'm going to go do it anyway. So it's like I'm like making the best use of my time. Now I'm not sitting there going like, hey, do you got any real estate referrals? I'm not doing that, but just building relationship. That's kind of like an 8x8 or part of the 33 touch. Then when I actually make the call to have the forward conversation with them, guess how easy it is? Incredibly easy. Like, oh man, like when are we going to shoot next? When we do this? Well, whatever. And then he's like, hey, we know each other really well, right? Yeah, and I've sent you business, right? And I'm just curious, would you mind me being your real estate agent of choice? When you have somebody that needs to buy or sell, would you mind sending them my way? That sound like a pretty simple script? Sound like something that you can do? That's natural because the relationship is there. I think the unfortunate thing is we think we need to bypass a relationship in order to get something from somebody, and it's not really the case. It's actually the relationship will sustain over time. Now, you could do this with a tennis club. You could do this with a boating club. You could do this with a knitting club. You could do this with a book club. Any number of things, okay? I happen to be obsessed with reading. I have an unbelievable shelf. I love material, and one of the best ways to learn it is to teach it. So one way that I'm working on recruiting right now is I created a webinar called The Maine Millionaire, Maine with an E, by the way. And just like an opportunity to sew into people, and I'm inviting potential recruits to that. And we're having a conversation, we're building a relationship. And then it's going to be the easier ask to say, hey, are you ready to make a switch to Keller Williams? That's how I happen to be doing it right now. So it's a little bit different, but it's following the same principle. Like, hey, I love doing this already. I'm going to do it and hold myself accountable and participate in it.
I have something quick to add, just to
Go for it.
regarding the network and the inch wide and mile deep, and breaking the ice for exchanges that are meaningful. For instance, I'm in a small town, and I went to a chamber event, and for me, just getting into real estate and networking after COVID, it felt really good because everyone is there for the same reason, and that's to exchange information. So for me, it was a great icebreaker to know that I was going with intention, that other people had similar intentions to build that network. So just
That's great.
entering into a situation where people are willingly engaging on that level. Really.
Yes. And if it's not readily available to you, create the opportunity. So I'd say in a place where where there's no chamber event, or here's the thing, I've been to some chamber events where there's like 60% real estate agents, and I'm like, all right, y'all, I'm creating my own club. So that's sometimes what I've done. So yeah, I would encourage you, if it's not there, make one, make it happen. That's great. Thank you, Kevin.
Well, one of the cool things that comes up relative to that too, that Jesse was talking about, he enjoys shooting. So he's doing it around shooting. Do it around things you're passionate about. It doesn't feel like work, and you have other people that you like to be around. That just makes sense. And as you build those relationships, they're who you're going to get business from, and it just starts to branch out from there. But that, again, don't go pick something you don't like. Jesse mentioned knitting. I'm not going to start a knitting club. That's not my thing. And yet, if I loved knitting, absolutely I would do that. So just pick the things that you enjoy, and then go create opportunities for other people who enjoy those things to spend time with you. Now, all of a sudden, you've got a group of friends who are going to, at some point, refer you business.
Yes.
This is Kimon from Hartford. Jesse and Mark, absolutely. I can recount situations where I have little kids, right? One of my daughter was a cheerleader for our town, and so I did that in a little bit of a different fashion, right? They were looking for sponsors for one of their cheerleading events, and so I sponsored the lunch for all the cheerleaders and put our little logo on there, put a little, but I provided the lunch for them. And so it actually forced me an opportunity to kind of get in front of all of the parents and build that relationship so that they could know who I was, a part of this group, and then fostering that relationship around me not just going there and sitting on the sidelines. So when we were at any competition events, any practices, I could have conversations about real estate, because here is a mom that is totally engaged with her daughter. And I did that for my son's soccer team also. I became to be soccer mom. I love going there and sitting and watching him play soccer. And I said to myself, why stay on the sidelines? Get involved, because it's not only going to show my kids that I am involved in what they're doing. However, it's going to bring me into great conversations with all the parents that are there, because nobody lives, they don't live under a bridge. They need somewhere at some point to live. And why not be the person who is totally on the field, supporting their kids like they are, common ground, and be able to help them to get into a home. And it has worked out so many different times from just being involved as a parent.
Yeah, that's great, Kimon. And I think, imagine this. we think about dropping all this big money on Zillow leads and, just sold postcards. What if you took that 10 to 12% of your GCI that was allotted and use that in those circles? Okay. You said, for example, like for yourself, say, hey, I'm going to sponsor the cheerleading team, or in like my circles, I could sponsor a shooting competition or whatever. And this is what's crazy is that stuff compounds, right? Is as I'm going to the shooting range, I'm not just taking the person with me, I'm getting to know everybody at the shop, like to the point where they actually call me when they get in like a new gun and like, hey, we think you might like this if you have time. They all know that I'm in real estate. They all know that I'm participating in that. Then you go and you say, hey, to the owner of the shooting range, hey, I'd like to sponsor an event. Just take 10% of one of your deals. Say it's $1,000. Hey, we're going to do a $500 prize. $500 goes to marketing for it. And then you get all the contact information of everybody that showed up. Then you put those people on an 8x8 or whatever and put them into your smart plan, and bam, you're off to the races. And like Mark just said, you were doing something you enjoyed the entire time.
Right. People like these,
yes.
Right? People like these for you. So I know we've talked about this book before real quick, but start with why, guys. And Jesse brought it back to why you need to know your big why, but people do business with people they like. Yep. End of story. I don't care. If you don't like someone, you're not going to do business with them. Get back into that. We've got a question in the audience that I want to pull up because I know we are.
We'll get to Courtney because she had her hand.
That's who there you are. Good morning.
All right. So, Jesse, I'm curious. So how do I do this? Okay. So I was coaching my son's softball team. I, volunteered and I got them all Lifestyle Properties masks, which is my team. And, I did the thing and I did all the steps and all of that stuff. But now I'm wondering, I haven't reached out to them because I'm not sure how to make the transition from being the softball coach. I talked with everyone and I made good relationships, but I'm not sure how to make that transition. Like, could you kind of go into that a little bit?
Yeah. And I think, some of the simplest things would be like, go small initially, and maybe work on like, who do I already have relationships with connected to the team? Because like you think of the, sponsoring the team is kind of like the marketing effort, and the prospecting effort may be like, hey, maybe we do, sponsor an opportunity for people to send in referrals. So say like, hey, we're going to do something where we say like, hey, for every lead that we get closed that comes from the softball team, we're going to donate $1,000 to the softball league or something like that. Or we're going to donate some money to the softball league. Then you have an excuse to call someone and say, hey, we're doing this push over the next 90 days, and any leads that come from a parent or a friend or family of, in regard to the softball team, we're going to donate X amount of dollars to this nonprofit or this whatever. The Lucido Group, which is one of the largest team, I think maybe the largest team in the world right now with Keller Williams. That was one of their strategies early on, was basically donating $1,000 to whoever asked for it to a local charity of their choice. Then they had an excuse to call them and say, hey, who are we sending the next $1,000 to? I mean, it's dependent on you sending a referral, but, and they would kind of play it off like that. So I think if you make it easy to have that conversation from that standpoint, is sometimes you say, hey, I'm being generous, giving something I want to give to anyway, and it's giving me an excuse to stay in touch with people. Does that make sense?
Jesse, yeah, that's actually, yeah, thank you.
And then one thing that, oh shoot, what was I just going to say relate to that? I know we're wrapping up here. Meetup.com is a platform that's free, that it almost sounds like a dating site. I apologize, but it's basically for like connecting with people with similar interests. It's super interesting. I'm on there right now, and like there's all different types of clubs. You can create a club, like there's a coffee social, there's an empowering women meetup, there's productivity hacks for remote working, communication superpowers group, all different types of groups that you can create that are both local and virtual. So there's a huge opportunity there for you to go on there and say, hey, what is an interest I have? And just put it out there, like see how many people engage, kind of along the lines of what Mark was saying. I know we have to wrap up in 2 minutes, and I just want to end with this. This has to do with mindset, because your mindset's going to really affect everything. And this is something I was listening to this morning. I've listened to like 100 times, and I don't know who the motivational speaker is, but he said, there is nothing more powerful than a changed mind, okay? You can change your clothes, you can change your hair, you can change your address, you can change your spouse, and none of that matters because you've changed everything outwardly, but nothing inwardly has changed. And I would say, what is needed for an inward change inside yourself, okay, that will then perpetuate, because you're gonna experience the perpetuation of all these symptoms because everything outwardly has been changing. You've been trying all these, shiny objects, but nothing inwardly has changed. So what does it take to make an inward change? And I would say, reach out to those you trust in your immediate circles, and they'll help you. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up.
Wow.
Great conversation. Very good. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Can I just share something really quickly before we wrap it up for Courtney? For my soccer team, my son's soccer team, at the end of the season, what I did is I treated the entire team to ice cream, and I got them to one of our local ice cream shops. And I had the parents there and the kids there, and I said, I'm a local realtor, and what I want to do, so come from contribution, exactly what you said, Jesse. I would love to be able to spotlight any of you that are small business owners within the group. And I created a vendor, like a small business spotlight for any of them. So I got to meet someone who had a shirt business and someone else who did like glass making or something like that. And so they're doing their videos for me to put on social media as a small business or spotlight. And so it gave an opportunity for me to introduce them introduce myself as a realtor and offer to give them something back. And I did the same thing yesterday with my daughter's basketball team, right? I invited everybody for pizza, and it was the same spiel. I thank you guys so much for a great season. I'm a local realtor, and I really would love to give back to our community. So if anyone in here has a small business or a charity, and I could help to highlight that and promote it for you, I would love an opportunity to do that, because I believe in giving back to small businesses. And you have your spiel, Courtney, and don't be afraid to step into that spotlight for a little bit and find a way to give back to them, and not just do it to get something for yourself. And it helped the conversation.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. That's a wonderful thing. Love that. Well, guys, we have all these little nuggets. I heard get a coach. I heard lead gen. I heard come from contribution, and so many different things. Jen, do you want to pull one aha, or do you want to pull something in? I know we went a little over.
You know what? There are so many great little nuggets that I think everybody picked up from this. And I think the whole point of it is just do it. Like this whole conversation doesn't work if you just don't go out and have conversations, if you just don't pick up the phone, and if you just don't tell people that you are the local real estate professional in your area, and you're going to provide amazing customer service by using you. So make sure you guys just do it. That's the whole point of today. Jesse, great job at pulling it all together. Mark, thanks for coming in and dropping some gold nuggets as well. And as always, Brooke, thank you. We will see you Monday. And Monday's topic, we're going over one of my other favorites, crazy enough, the budget model. So we're going to make sure that your budget model is set. Nobody has ever talked to you about this before if you're new to Keller Williams. So make sure you are here on Monday, and we're going to really dive into that budget model. See you guys then. Thank you.
Have a great weekend, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, Maggie. Appreciate you.